What's up, team? Sean from Rest to Live here. And I just watched a new podcast called SOFI Weekly. And it actually motivated me to talk a little bit about SOFI, some trends I'm seeing, and what I think ultimately is the big advantage here that I didn't hear get covered in that podcast. And who knows, maybe they'll have me on and we can talk about these things as well. So before I jump in, I want to drop this as I often say. This isn't so much about the stock price of SoFi, but rather really the theme behind online digital banking, how we look at trends and things that are happening in this industry, and how I look at those as long tail opportunities for myself as an investor. There's no buy or sell suggestions. There's no advice being given on that. This is looking at the company, the trends, and what it offers. So let's not waste any time. Let's jump right on in. So first things first, SoFi is really like an integrated digital slash online bank. So think banking, investing, lending, student loans, personal loans, things like that. All the kind of standard things you'd expect to see. No surprises here. And a lot of people like where it is from a price perspective. A lot of people think there's a lot of potential there. They think it's run really well with a good CEO in Anthony Noto. Sure, great things. I invest for big upside and I'm looking for asymmetrical wins. So, what I'm looking for are large population based trends, population or age based changes. That's how I'm approaching this perspective as a company, not as an investment. The investment piece, though, follows my thesis, which is what I'm going to build into. So, let's not waste any time. And I'm going to give you some statistics. I wrote these down. I didn't make any slides to show them, but I thought it'd be valuable just to share what I had here. I also want to call out, too, that there's so many different ways to think about these things. Here's what I want to kick this off as a theme, though. Adoption patterns are important for new businesses. When the internet first became a thing, people thought it was a fad. They thought email was a fad. They thought no one would be into computers. They weren't really working. We know where we are today, right? We say this about lots of things. GPS is in your car. Now they're in your phone, right? Cell phones. It was just a thing. No one's going to really need those or want those. They're here forever. I think digital banking, online banking is in fact the here and now, but I think we're just scratching the surface of what's really coming down the pipeline. So anyone who's in this space who can really execute is likely to be a large winner in the long-term play here. So I just want to give you some statistic that I was able to find from a few different places, and I'm going to read them off to you as I start to really think about this. So about 2/3 of the US population uses some form of digital banking services. So this could be that you still have a branch, but you use an online banking resource. It could be that you pay your bills online, things like that. But think about that for a second. 2/3 uses some sort of digital banking service, which means a third doesn't at all. So that's a massive TAM that still exists, as well as more people who would be comfortable switching potentially to this style of a bank. Now, about 80% of millennials reported using digital banking in 2002, but only 48.5% of baby boomers reported the same. So as more of these boomers are sort of pushing out and, moving on, this younger generation has an 80% usage rate. Imagine what the generation below them will be. Probably 90 plus, 95 plus, maybe 100%, right? So just an interesting number as well. The number of people using digital banking has increased by 4% since 2018. And the overall takeaway here is that a lot of people do still, in fact, like that there's a branch or a person they can call. So keep that in mind, okay? Now, as it stands right now, this is an interesting statistic that I think is worth calling out. About 27% of Americans use online only banking. Only about a quarter of the population uses online only banking, but we know digital online banking has huge adoption. So there's sort of a natural trend happening here, I think. Okay. So I really do want to call this out that there is a big opportunity to play here. Adoption's part of it, comfort is part of it, and I think it's a generational play that we're going to see here. Now, the other thing that's actually very interesting, and I'll tell you a quick story as soon as I explain this. Americans have 5.3 bank accounts across financial institutions on average. So let's just call it five. So if you think about that for a second, you might hear that and think, geez, why would a person have five bank accounts? Well, it's actually pretty simple. I'll give you a quick example. Let's say I have two car loans at two different banks because I, went to a dealership and bought a car and it got the lowest rate. So there's two different bank accounts. Perhaps I have a general checking and savings account. That's 3. Perhaps I have an account set up for my 401k. Well, that's 4. Maybe I have like a Robinhood, a Webull, a Fidelity, an E-Trade set up for my trading. That's 5. Now, like a lot of people, you might also have a credit union. You might have credit card banking at a different bank, and on and on and on we go. So it's actually very normal for us to have lots of different types of banking relationships across different needs within the banking sector. So if someone was able to provide me a car loan and a mortgage and investing and checking and savings, it's a reason to really think about consolidating into one single experience. So again, maybe SoFi is a fit for that, maybe they're not, but it speaks to the adoption perspective that I really want to call it out. Now, additionally, one thing that stands out to me as being really, frankly, sort of stunning is probably the right word for it. About 5% of Americans are currently unbanked. Okay. Unbanked at all. So even that 5% represents a very large TAM in and of itself. So any percentage grab of that 5%, just from a first play perspective, could be huge as well. I want to call it out. I source these from a number of resources: Statistica, FDIC, JD Power, Galileo, US Fed Reserve, etc. So those are just some of the statistics in general that we're seeing. I think it's really interesting in calling out the fact that there are a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities to take advantage in this space. And if I believe, which I personally do, that this is a place I want to play in, I'm going to be looking at companies like a SoFi. I'm going to be looking at something like that to potentially be the opportunity I want to invest in. The reason why I'm not saying you should or shouldn't is you still have to analyze the stock at scale, okay? This is the part that I think these guys over at SoFi Weekly are going to be really good at, and I would urge you to check that out. Actually, I'm not compensated in any way, by the way, for anyone on there, and I do currently own SoFi stock, which is why I'm not telling you it's a buy or a sell. I just think that it's important to understand the macro of what's going on with online and digital banking is that it's a growing sector with higher degrees of comfort level and less need for branch visits. So that's sort of my baseline take here, is that as generations age and new generations come into banking, I think that adoption pattern is going to follow the trend where more and more people are going to be more and more comfortable and have more and more experiences where it's online or digital only. This is a short one. I just wanted to get it out there because I was really excited after watching those guys talk about it. Otherwise, have a great weekend. Good talking, everybody. Take it easy. Be safe. Keep doing your research. It's not just about stocks. You have to look at the company. If you watch the whole video, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to write online banking down below. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it. Keep asking the questions, and I'll keep answering them. Have a good one, team.